Hello and welcome back to our channel Narrative Deconstructed. First of all, thanks for the overwhelming response that you guys have given to the previous video. The topic for today is India-USA trade deal, a masterstroke or a surrender. Have you ever wondered why trade deals spark enough controversy that it could shut down the parliament? Last week, the global headlines were dominated by two major events. First was India's interim trade agreement with USA, and another one was India's deal with European Union that was called the mother of all deals subsequently. Even President Donald Trump himself, from his own Twitter handle, stated that he would slash tariffs on Indian imports from staggering 50% to 18%. This shows diplomacy these days has become increasingly personality driven, because these leaders would use social media to claim credit even before the official agreements are signed. Yes, on paper this deal looks nice, it has some benefits, mostly for the labor-intensive sectors, which makes the backbone of the Indian industry, like textile industry, leather and footwear industry, auto parts and machinery. But as the dust settles, trade experts and economists are raising big red flags. Is this a fair trade deal? Many analysts would say no. Is India, despite of its growing economic clout, is actually losing out in this deal? The Goldman Sachs reports predicts that this deal will boost India's GDP by 0.2%, but at a massive cost. India has pledged more than $500 billion, which is upwards of 45 lakh crores in rupees, in multi-year purchases of America's tech, energy and coal. Guys, let's look at your wallet right now. The dollar is hovering at around 92 rupees per unit. The petrol prices are creeping up rapidly and the farmers are back on the street. Why? Because behind these historic handshakes lies a dangerous reality. Today, we are going beyond PR and we are going to deconstruct this deal in our narrative deconstructed style. We will be discussing what this deal actually means for your job, for your data and for your food security. And we will be discussing whether this is a deal among equals or India is just being used as a dumping ground for the West. Let's be honest, this isn't a fair trade deal, it's a ransom note. This deal is coming up with various traps, and we will be discussing these traps consecutively. The first one is the tariff trap, the reality of 18% tariff. First, look at the bar, which shows the tariffs imposed by US in the contemporary times and now. In trade wars, usually the tariffs imposed on textiles and jewelry is around 1.8% to 8%. But as the tensions peaked in the last November, USA has slapped 50% tax on Indian imports just as a punishment for its continued purchase of Russian oil. And now this deal brings that down to 18%. This is not the old normal. We have just accepted a less painful new normal. And even trade organizations like FIEO, Federation of Indian Export Organization, President S.C. Salhan stated that though orders are coming back, but the MSME sector is struggling very badly. Why? Because while we pay 18% duty as an entry fee into the US market, our competitors like Vietnam and Bangladesh are paying 0% to 5% under GSP status, which India, a benefit that USA has stripped from India years ago. Now the second trap, the agricultural trap. This is the battle for Indian farm. While we are celebrating 0% duty on silk and leather, a storm is brewing up for the Indian farmer. This is the story of sacrificial lamb. This is where the war starts, and the sacrificial lamb is Indian agriculture. India has committed to moving towards 0% tariff on US-made industrialized and agricultural products, and as we do so, we have to open gates to US-made almond, walnuts and soybean oil. And as we open the gates to them, we have to open the gates to US mega farms, mega corporate farms, literally farm the size of a small city. And could you really imagine a small farmer or marginal farmer from Punjab or Maharashtra could compete with those corporate farms from Iowa when it comes to maize or wheat? No, absolutely not. And also, till now we have excluded the sensitive sectors like dairy and wheat, but the pressure to open these sectors to US products is also immense. Even LOP Rahul Gandhi has asked a chilling question: are we handling the keys to our food security to foreign corporations? And if we do so, we are facing a rural unemployment crisis that no tech deal can fix. और आज आपको पता है महाराष्ट्र और मध्य प्रदेश में आज भी सोयाबीन फार्मर्स कितने डिस्ट्रेस में, क्योंकि सोयाबीन का प्राइस क्रैश होता जा रहा है, और अगर यूएस के प्रोडक्ट्स इंडिया में आते हैं जो सब्सिडाइज्ड होंगे, डोमेस्टिक डिमांड खत्म हो जाएगी, फार्मर डिस्ट्रेस बढ़ेगा और अल्टीमेटली फार्मर सुसाइड करेंगे. और आज भी अकॉर्डिंग टू एनसीआरबी डाटा 6 to 11% of all suicides are farmer suicides. And secondly, there is a danger of GMOs, genetically modified crops. NGO Asha Kisan Swaraj has pointed out towards the danger that most of the imports will be genetically modified, and this completely goes against the India's policy of organic farming. It is zero budget natural farming, Paramparagat Krishi Vikas Yojana, and it also makes our dairy industry completely dependent on US made cattle feed. And that's the second trap. Third trap, the energy trap, the oil pivot. Are we sourcing a sovereign loss? The biggest gift from India wasn't just about money, it's about sovereignty. We have secured a cut on textiles from staggering 50 to 18% right now. But what's the hidden cost? We have to blink on Russia. We are essentially being asked to trade a deep historic friendship for a transactional business discount. And what's the risk? We lose our all-weather friend. Remember friends, Russia has been our greatest ally for the longest, for over 5 decades. Russia has provided us with defense tech like S-400 and Soya jets. Right now, cutting oil ties with Russia could push Russia closer to Pakistan and China. And secondly, अगर आप यहाँ तक वीडियो में पहुँच चुके हैं तो मैं आप सबसे पूछना चाहता हूँ, is this the end of non-alignment? You know what's the irony? Experts like Pankaj Srivastava from Restart Energy had estimated that switching over to US crude oil would cost us extra $12 per barrel. Extra $12 per barrel. For a country with 88% oil dependency, this is not diplomacy. This is inflation bomb. It is a tax on every citizen. It is not a trade shift. It is a strategic realignment. This will widen our CAD, current account deficit. It is a hit to our strategic autonomy. This is like a Damocles sword hanging over India's industry all the time. India has always prided itself with dehyphenated policy, that is being friends with everyone. And right now, by aligning so much with US energy demands, are we losing our ability to say no in the future? What's bigger dilemma than this? Trading a friend for a so-called friend. India now can no longer decide who to buy oil from, whether it's Iran or Russia. This is framed as a weaponization of energy against India. And that's just the third trap. And now the fourth trap, the data trap, the digital sovereignty at risk. India's 1.4 billion people generate the world's most valuable asset, data. And we have already threaded our way from tax slavery to track imperialism very cautiously. And in the future of AI and data, we can't be less cautious. Because it's a future era. The petrol of 21st century is data. And we have just traded our most valuable asset for a transactional business discount. You know how? US wanted us to drop data localization policy. US wanted free flow of data. And ironically, we have agreed to that. We have agreed to no data localization. We have agreed to no digital tax, that we have capped our ability to tax big giant firms for the next 20 years. And ironically, we have also agreed to free flow of data. That is, there is no digital value. And if we give in on this, India loses its most valuable asset to the tech giants of Silicon Valley like Google and Meta. So the lesson is quite clear. In global trade, there are no free lunches. But wait, doesn't the US needs us? If the US wants to beat China in AI race, they need Indian data. And if they want to protect the dollar, they need the Indian market. But instead of negotiating as an equal power, we negotiate as a country trying to avoid penalty. We gave up our energy sovereignty. Now the US gets to monitor who we buy oil from. Is this the behavior of a Vishwaguru or a subordinate?
फिर एक बार मेरी भारत माता विश्व गुरु के स्थान पर विराजमान हो.
So, is this deal a loss? It depends on who you ask. If you are a textile exporter in Turupur, it's a lifeline. And if you are a digital startup in Bengaluru or a farmer in Vidarbha, it's a daunting challenge. So what's the way forward? Here's my analysis. We are being boxed by two giants. US wants our energy dependency and the EU wants our data and banking market. Where do we go from here? We can't just tear up the paper. We need to pivot and fast. First, should a massive policy shift like this, dropping Russian oil entirely, be decided by the executive alone, or should it be debated in the parliament first? Second, our data is our most valuable asset. If US wants our data to train US AI, we must get the royalties, not just market access. Third, we must diversify, not substitute. India must not quit buying oil from Russia. We must maintain a dehyphenated diplomacy. Third, India needs to push digital rupee for settling oil payments with the global south to bypass the dollar trap. And most importantly, we cannot allow zero tariffs on US soy or corn. US corn at 17 rupees cannot be allowed to kill any farmer who is at 24 rupees MSP. We must have agricultural safeguards. So the verdict is quite clear. If a deal benefits top 1% of the exporters, but it makes energy and bread expensive for the bottom 90%, it is not a deal, it is a mistake. Do drop your thoughts in the comments. I will be responding to the most analytical ones, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more such deep dives. I am Zilama Mirza, and I'll see you in the next one.